Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to this Innovation Forum webinar. We'll be discussing the decarbonisation challenges for the critical minerals sector. I'm Ian Welch and I'll be your host for the next hour or so. We do have a Slido word cloud that we're going to run just now, just to get things kicked off. You'll have to click through to Slido. If you engage with that, we're asking everybody what's the biggest challenge in decarbonising critical minerals. Unscientific strategy, but please do jump on the word cloud and let us know what you think and give us a chance to start the conversation. So the race to secure critical minerals is accelerating, of course, but so is the urgency to reduce the carbon footprint. Mining, refining and processing are energy intensive, often reliant on fossil fuels and responsible for significant emissions. Paradoxically, as the demand for net zero metals grows, so too does their footprint. So, to help frame our discussion today, we have an expert panel. I'm joined by Urishni Govinder, Chief Sustainability Officer at Harmony Gold Mining, Arend van der Goes, Senior Sustainability Manager at Ermet, and Reza Ramiditio, Critical Minerals Project Lead at the World Resources Institute Indonesia. Welcome to you all. Now, I'll turn to our panel shortly, but we do want to hear from you all. Please be thinking about points and questions that you would like me to put to our panel and write them in the Q&A box on your Zoom window. Please note your name and organisation when putting your question. You can, of course, like others' questions by clicking the thumbs up, and the more likes, the greater the chances that I will put the question to the panel. And keep your questions brief if you can as well. Okay, let's get cracking. Reza, welcome. Perhaps you can start us off by giving us some thoughts on, for you, what the key challenges for the mining sector in terms of decarbonisation are. Reza.
Yeah, thank you. And honestly, this is a very interesting topic because at the BRI, we have spent in the last 2 years looking into how to decarbonize critical minerals, especially nickel in Indonesia. And honestly, we found that this is not an easy task because of 3 big reasons. The first is the critical mineral production is inherently energy intensive. Second is the deposits are often located in remote areas where limited access to the renewable energy. And the third is the commodity market of the critical minerals itself is highly volatile, as we can see in the past years, how the price trend is declining. Talking about the energy intensive in the critical minerals is because we see that the minerals is contained in the ore with the tiny fraction of the valuable element in the ore. We can see, like, let's say lithium only 5% in the ore, nickel 1 to 2% in the ore. So it's not like a coal that you mine and use directly, but minerals involve like a very thorough processing to get you the valuable element that you need for let's say low carbon technology. And for the processing itself, it will require an energy intensive. Sometimes for producing nickel and copper, let's say, you will need extremely high temperature, like 1000 Celsius. And the second challenge is the remote location. I think in Indonesia, for example, nickel deposits are located in the very remote island where there is no energy infrastructure like electricity grid, and also very limited renewable energy like solar or even hydropower. So it is very challenging. And the third one is the market itself. We can see that the declining price put pressure on the nickel or other critical minerals producer to fund or to finance decarbonization. We can see like the example of nickel industry in Australia, which have a lower carbon footprint, but facing cost pressures because of the declining price of the nickel. So yeah, I think that is the 3 big challenges that we are facing when it comes to the decarbonizing the critical minerals industry.
Okay, how are companies tackling these then?
Yeah, actually, companies, I think many of the companies starting with the let's say the most feasible to do, like the energy efficiency. We can see most of the critical minerals processing are involving high temperatures. So many companies doing the recycling or waste heat recovery for their process, so it can save their expenses on energy and also cut emissions by around 10%. And some of the company also go further with using new technology to process their critical minerals that consume less energy than the older technology in the industry. I can take an example of the HPAL processing nickel in Indonesia, which significantly reduced the energy consumption compared to the pyrometallurgy facilities.
And what about challenges involved in accessing remote areas?
Yeah, in remote areas, there's not much significant progress, but I guess Aaron is the perfect panelist to talk this further about the experience in the remote island. But I think it's the same. I think energy efficiency is the main choice in the remote island, because the energy infrastructure and also the source for let's say the hydropower is very rare in the remote island. So energy efficiency and also improving the technology itself, it is the one way to go.
And do you have any thoughts on market volatility?
Yeah, and the market volatility, I think there is some kind of like initiative to put a premium in the price of the critical minerals, like a green premium, because of the market is declining. So we can rely much on the price, the basic price itself. So we have to put on top of the basic price is the premium. But I think it's the progress is still quite limited at the moment, but maybe in the future it will be high demand because of the the evolving green market globally.
Okay, thank you. There's lots to come back on there, but thank you very much indeed for setting the scene. Urishni, let me turn to you. Welcome to the webinar. Harmony Gold, what are your decarbonisation goals?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, Ian, and hello to everybody. Really a great opportunity for us to share with you what Harmony is doing. So I think first and foremost, I'm not sure if everyone is aware of who Harmony is, so just some insights into who Harmony is. We've been in South Africa for more than 75 years and Australasia 25 years. We are a specialist gold producer, and we are growing into a critical mineral, which is, I'll share a little bit more later. In terms of our North Star, it's really around mining for purpose. So all the work that we do, we must ensure that there's that social, environmental element that is brought into it. So as you've indicated, Ian, we firmly understand the dilemma in terms of, yes, the world needs more critical minerals, and coupled to that is the generation of more CO2. So really what we want to do is bring in that mining for purpose, bring in that social element, the sustainability lens, to say, let us do it more socially, responsibly, and let us do it cutting emissions. So what are we doing about it? Number one, I think people will ask, especially people on the line, to say, but why gold? Why does Harmony need to mine gold? We know that there is a national importance for gold, in terms of security, et cetera, and there's also the environmental and social benefits that comes from having mines within a community. The other important area is around the remining of tailings facility. And I really want to share a very fun fact with you, in that in terms of the reprocessing of tailings facility, Harmony has done globally the largest amount of reprocessing, with the financial year 2024 coming in at 246 kilo ounces. We have a sustainability, or we call it a sustainable business plan, which is set on 4 pillars, one of which is embedding responsible stewardship. The other talks to around operational excellence, cash certainty, and effective capital allocation. Embedded within every single one of those pillars is our ESG sustainability elements through our sustainability framework. You asked, what is our ambition? What is our target? We have ambitions, number one, to be nature positive. And within that nature positive elements, we're looking at carbon, and we're also looking at water biodiversity. If we look at our carbon, we have a ambitious target in terms of net zero by 2045. Ian, what we also have is a very structured renewable energy program. And we're very excited about this program. It's got a number of phases. And in total, we plan to install 583 megawatts of renewable energy capacity. In addition, fully understanding how mines operate within a large company and an older company like ours, 75 years, you've got different life of mines. So we're going to support those shorter life of mines with the 200 megawatt short-term PPAs. So really exciting, and we're really working towards these ambitions.
Thank you. You mentioned 583 megawatts of renewable supply. What's your total requirement? Does that cover it all?
Yes, so that would be our total requirement. That will take us to net carbon zero in terms of that scope 2 elements emission.
All right. So what's the business imperative then and commercial opportunity that comes from this process of decarbonising? Let's think about particularly in terms of critical minerals.
Sure. So I think first and foremost, let me start off with, just to expand on that question that you asked. What do we require? What have we actually done in terms of renewable energy? We've already installed 30 megawatts. And through our phase 1 and phase 2, we've already calculated that we are going to have 425 million rands of saving, Ian. So there's your business imperative. We don't need to motivate any further. In addition to that, certainly we'll get the just transition, etc. But from a business perspective, this is what we will bring in. Further to that, what we've said is, as we continue to install these renewable energy in phases, you mentioned it, Riza, in terms of those CO2, those imminent taxes, we're going to be cutting our CO2 emissions by 20%, 40%, then 60% by 2026, that's really imminent, 2031, and then 2036. So I said to you, we are going to be moving into new frontiers, and we're very excited about this new frontier. We're expanding into copper. And there, as you've indicated, Ian, let's talk about critical minerals. This is the backbone. Copper is the backbone to a low carbon future. The global demand is surging. It's amazing. And why? Because of the electrification, because of the vehicles, electric vehicles, grid infrastructure, etc., etc. What we've also recognized, and Riza, you've alluded to it as well, in terms of that increased demand, the challenges that are coming through with the copper, with renewable energy. It is said that to reach net zero by 2050, humanity will need to mine as much copper as it has ever mined to date. So you can imagine the phenomenal amount of copper that is needed. We also understand that there's going to be a deficit in terms of the short term. It is said that the world needs 194 new large copper mines. So it's really at the back of this that Harmony will do the strategic pivot into copper. And also this is a purposeful alignment in terms of the energy transition. Importantly, from a business perspective, copper is going to help us in terms of the business cycle because it is counter-cyclical. There's also the sustainability synergy because what we need in terms of our gold is exactly the same transition pathway for copper. What we also can share is that we have selected strategic copper projects that is going to support us in terms of this pivoting to critical metals. Two that I can share with you. The first one is Wafi-Golpu. This is in Papua New Guinea. This is a tier 1 project. It's high grade, long life, it's underground. The other one is Eva Copper in a tier 1 jurisdiction. This is going to be in Australasia, and we're expecting it to our first copper in financial year 2028. So really exciting that we're going to be transitioning into copper. And I think also what is very important in terms of these projects, Ian, is that these are green fields. So all those amazing elements in terms of our sustainability framework, in terms of our ambitions, we will be able to integrate it from early stages into the projects. And we're very happy that we'll be able to offer the world scalable, sustainable learnings that can set the templates up for future sustainable projects.
Okay, can you tell us a bit more about the commercial or the competitive advantages that decarbonising will give you?
Sure. And I mean, I think, we can truly say, hand on our heart, that when we embark in sustainability initiatives, whether it is relating to reducing our dependency on water or reducing or energy efficiency, it is based on a business imperative in addition to the social. So if we start to look at what are the advantages, number one is going to advance our environmental stewardship, address cost elements, access to capital, market differentiation, regulatory compliance, as well as support our social license to operate. So if I can go a little bit more into detail, in terms of the cost, as I've shared with you, the cumulative savings that we've had to date in terms of the installation of our renewable energy, we've put in 30 megawatts already. We've got 2.2 billion rands in saving, Ian. And that's your business imperative there. In addition to that, we've saved 2.1 million tons of avoided CO2. What we can also share is that as you start to look at energy efficiency, especially in the scope 1, you start to reduce your exposure to harmful volatile diesel, etc., etc. We also have enjoyed preferred access to capital. A part of our renewable energy program, for example, is at the back of a green loan. And specific to this green loan, the KPIs include our progress on our renewable energy as well as our CO2 emission reduction, which then qualifies us for lower interest rate. We also believe that we are readying ourselves in terms of regulatory readiness and future-proofing. And then we also looking at enhancing our social license to operate, because we know if we're coming in with this sustainability criteria, we will be a partner of choice for local government as well as for communities. We're also very proud to share that as part of the work that we're doing on renewable energy, we are advancing the just transition. With the renewable energy, you can imagine there isn't a lot of experience out there on the South African side. We use that as an opportunity to partner with an SMME. Interestingly, Ian, what this SMME used to do is they used to install lighting and they used to assemble lighting. We worked with them, we trained them, and now they have a demonstrable project on the ground as part of our Pakisa solar project where they have installed solar panels. So this has now certainly set them up in terms of our future projects as well as going out. So we're very proud of that. This is a woman pioneered business. So there you go, women in mining, and also advancing local because they are quite a high BEE level. I also want to share, Ian, that with this comes an advantage in that we can choose partners that have the same sustainability criteria as us and credentials as us. So, whenever we look at new assets, we have a defined decision criteria, including sustainability. So that's a given. But when we start talking about the partners that we have, we will partner with those companies that can support our sustainability framework. If I share with you Wafi-Golpu, we've got Newmont. Newmont, as we know, has got publicly disclosed elements around carbon reporting, their climate risk disclosure, they have science-based targets similar to us. If we look at EVA, we've got Bechtel. Bechtel is an EPC. They are already talking about low carbon engineering, and they can support us in terms of integrating carbon smart infrastructure from the onset. These are greenfield. The next one is Thies. Thies is the mining contractor, also on EVA. And they've come out publicly to say 85% of their vehicles will be either hybrid or EV by 2030. So you can see how we'll be sharing the risk in terms of managing that scope 1 emissions. What I can also share is that where we said we will be net carbon zero by 2045, we will have the support of these partners because all three of them have said they will be net carbon zero by 2050. So you can see that synergy in terms of working together. So really great advantages of taking on that sustainability ambitions. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks very much. Again, a lot we can go back to there. I'm really interesting the partnerships you were talking about there and the sharing the risks, sharing the costs, really interesting. But thank you very much indeed. Okay, Arend, welcome. Perhaps you can give us just a very brief introduction to Eramet and then talk us through your decarbonisation roadmap.
Thank you very much, Ian. Glad to be here. Yeah, so Eramet Group, it's a French mining and metals company. It's based in Paris, but we have operations in a number of continents, in Europe, in North America, in Oceania, in Africa, and also in Asia. In Asia, it's only in Indonesia, where I am based. So that's also how I know Reza, who's also in Indonesia. So the focus of Eramet is actually the transformation of strategic metals. So we're talking about nickel for Indonesia. We're talking about manganese in Gabon. And we're talking about lithium, cobalt, and a little bit of, on a side note, not really for the energy transformation, also mineral sands. So these products, they end up in different products, largely steel, also electrical vehicles, batteries for the electrical vehicles, but also for energy storage, like solar parks. They end up in telecommunications devices, in health tools, and also in industrial paint and soldering. That's the mineral sands part of it. So Eramet really aiming to become a reference around the world for responsible transformation of the Earth's mineral resources. And like Harmony Gold, we also have a sustainability framework. Ours is called Act for Positive Mining. We're looking at three main parts. It's quite similar also to Harmony. We're looking at focus on people, health and safety, inclusivity, communities, focus on nature, also looking for a net positive contribution to biodiversity, maintaining water quality and reducing as much as possible environmental impacts. And then finally, the focus of today's discussion is the transformation of value chains. So looking at responsible value chains, promoting a circular economy, and also reducing CO2 emissions. We want all around the world, all the operations, we want them to be certified by IRMA. IRMA is an international standard. It's an initiative for responsible mining assurance. So it's the highest standard that's in existence today. On decarbonization, it is focusing on developing and maintaining a greenhouse gas policy. It requires identification and measurement of greenhouse gases. It requires the identification of energy efficiency measures, what opportunities exist for greenhouse gas reductions. It requires the setting of meaningful and achievable targets. And it requires reviewing the greenhouse gas policy every 5 years because the market is quite volatile, as Reza was mentioning, things change. So Eramet's response to climate change, we also have a target of achieving net zero, and that is by 2050. We have an interim target by 2035 where we want to reduce CO2 emissions by 40%. So this is across the board, across all countries. So we're actually following a two-pronged approach. One of them is, of course, the actual fact that we're working in the energy transition with critical minerals that are targeted to contribute to reduction of greenhouse gases around the world in the products that are using these minerals. And then, of course, the other very important one and the tricky one is to actually reduce the CO2 emissions. So in his introduction, Reza was mentioning the difficulty of these minerals being in very remote areas. Just to give you an idea, the mine that is in Indonesia is 2,000 kilometers away from the capital, Jakarta, on a very remote island. There's even a time difference between Jakarta, where I'm sitting right now, and the mine. So it's really very remote. There is no electricity net. It is in a critical habitat area. So all the power that is needed is supplied locally with coal-fired power plants. He was mentioning an evolution of technology which can reduce significantly the greenhouse gas emissions. But that is a point that maybe we'll come back later because there's some trade-offs there, which I think I would like to come back later in the follow-up discussion, because it is making life very difficult for us, and it is there's some big business decisions involved in that. So I guess for now, that's the introduction.
Okay, thanks.
I'll turn back to Ian.
Thanks, Aaron. So, okay, let's talk about coal then. How are you reducing dependency on coal-fired power plants?
Yeah, that is you're asking the trickiest question, the key question. How do we reduce it? Again, Reza was alluding to different renewable energy options, and I think there is not one magic bullet to reduce our dependency on coal. For our operations in Indonesia, we are looking at a mix. We have to look at a mix. There's no other single opportunity to do so. So we're looking at solar. The trade-off with solar is that you need quite a bit of space for the solar panels. So that is not easy when you're in a critical habitat area on an island. We're looking at mini hydro because large-scale hydro is definitely not a possibility. There is some geothermal on the island, but it's quite far from where we are, but it could be an option. We're looking at very limited contribution of biomass because unlike what people might think about Indonesia, the amount of available biomass that, sustainable biomass that can be used is actually quite limited. And you need to be very careful of not cutting down the remaining forests. And then finally, an option which is emerging is hydrogen. And that might be a viable option for our island, well, not our island, for the island where we are in a joint venture mining nickel. Okay. So there's not one magic bullet. The two technologies that you are mentioning, so the high pressure acid leaching, which is very much for refining metals for the battery industry, the electrical vehicle industry, that has a much lower footprint. But, and this is where the tricky part comes in, currently the majority of the minerals are going into steel production. And steel production, theoretically, you can do that also with a high pressure acid leaching technology, but the much more appropriate one is the rotary kiln electrical furnace. And that one is very, very hungry for energy. But that does constitute, to give you a rough idea, that give you roughly 80% goes into the steel market and 20% goes into the battery market, even a little bit less than 20%. So it is a tricky thing. the investments made by our partners in the technology, those are also huge investments. These are not investments that you can say, okay, well, let's just stop and buy different equipment. You want a return on your investment before you can afford to try something different. And that's where the market comes in. It was also mentioned the huge competition that is there in the critical minerals market, which makes it a very competitive affair with margins that would be much smaller than you would actually think. So it's not so easy to just switch to something new.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, lots we can come back on there. Just a quick reminder to the audience, we do want to hear from you. We've got a couple of questions already, but do be thinking about your questions and I'll put them to the panel shortly. Arend, I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about, you mentioned earlier the Initiative for Responsible Mining Assurance. How does that and such certifications support your decarbonisation efforts?
Well, it gives an internationally reputable and recognized framework. It's not specific, obviously not specific for decarbonization, but it has a good section on decarbonization requiring the following of international best practices. So, for example, Eramet is looking for the Science-Based Target Initiative, which is much more practical framework for measuring greenhouse gas emissions and to set up programs to achieve those emission targets. So it is offering a framework whereby it becomes comparable across the group, the different operations. What we do in terms of the details, whether we're following the greenhouse gas protocol or something else, that can vary by country. But if you are certified according to the IRMA standard, that does give a good idea to customers that you are a responsible mining company. And even though today we are not there yet with premiums for responsibly sourced, responsibly produced minerals, that is the direction we think the world is taking. There's even for steel, there's green steel. The London Metal Exchange has been trying for some time already to put a premium on nickel, but the market is not yet there. So customers, I won't name names, but famous vehicle brands are not yet willing to pay more for sustainably produced. At least that's my impression at the moment. I might be wrong. They're not yet really willing to pay more for sustainably produced minerals.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Is there any more you want to talk about in terms of your nickel operations in Indonesia? Any specific challenges decarbonising those?
Definitely. We are facing immense challenges. It is extremely difficult. I mentioned already our dependence on very energy intensive technologies. That's the biggest challenge, I would say. We have started already electrifying mining equipment. So we have a fleet of trucks, about 1,000 diesel trucks originally, and their lifetime is about 5 years. So every time they reach the 5 years, they are replaced not with a new diesel truck, but with an electric truck. So that is progressively going on. At the moment, there are about more than 300 trucks, electric trucks. So that's progressing nicely. The idea is that these will be the batteries of these trucks will be charged by solar power. So at the moment, we're looking at the logistics of where to put the different charging stations. Once that is settled, and once there's an agreement also with the government, because there's also permitting issues where we can place the solar panels, then it will be weaned off, so to speak, from the coal-fired power plant, and then be fully supported by solar energy. So that is one thing. We had the intention of developing a decarbonization roadmap as well. I don't know if you want me to say something about that now, or
let's move on. We're running
Yeah.
already short, and we've got a load of questions
Okay.
coming in. So, but thank you very much for now, Aaron. There's loads of them
You're
can come back. Reza, let me bring you back in, because do you have any further things to add around the challenges specific to Indonesia? I mean, you mentioned some of them earlier, but just to follow on from Aaron's conversation there about the nickel operations that he's involved in, are there any other Indonesia-specific challenges you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to give a clearer picture on so the audience can understand the situation that Aaron recently discussed about. I have an interesting graphics. Maybe I can share a bit of slides here. Yeah, can you see the graphics here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just to give a further details on what Aaron has been talking about, the renewable energy source, and also the energy infrastructure compared to the location of the nickel deposits in Indonesia, and also the smelters facilities location. So you can see on the red dots with the black circle is the demand. It is where the facilities are located, like the industrial parks, the nickel smelters, and also most of the nickel deposits are located in this circle, the black circle one. And meanwhile, we can see that the renewable energy potentials are located in the different region far from the demand or the smelter itself. So take an example of wind power. It is located in the south of Sulawesi Island. So on your left is the Sulawesi, and your right is the Maluku Island. This is the two main regions that has the biggest nickel deposits in Indonesia, and you can see that the solar wind is mainly located in the South Sulawesi, but South Sulawesi at the same time is the region that has fewest or the lowest number of nickel facilities. Meanwhile, the most of the nickel facilities are located in the central Sulawesi and also the Maluku. Maluku is I think the isolated region because of it comprises of small island, and there is no existing infrastructure like the electricity grids only appears in Sulawesi, as you can see in the red line, and also the blue one. So this is the situation in Indonesia. But what I can tell is this is also give us some learning about how we plan the industrial development for critical minerals that should be considering the long term, not only the short term, because we have to consider the source of the renewable energy. So it's not only considering where the deposits of the nickel, and we build the facilities, the processing facilities as close as to the reserve or the deposits, but we have to also consider where is the renewable energy, like the hydro. In this image, you can see the hydro power plant is shown in the star symbol. There's much of hydropower potential distributed across the Sulawesi, but there is no single huge potential of hydro that is located near the facilities of the nickel production. So this is I hope this can give the rest of the world the learning on how to plan the industrial development of the critical minerals. And for Indonesia, I think the only way to go from this situation is to connect the facilities of the smelter to the existing transmission line. So the renewable energy can be take up by the existing transmission line and distribute into the existing nickel facilities. But it will require much capital investment for this plan. So there is no better plan than doing better at the planning itself from the beginning.
Great. No, thank you very much indeed. And if we can, we'll share that with everybody after the webinar. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, let's turn to some audience questions then. And thanks very much for submitting them. First question I want to put to the panel. We talked a lot about opportunities from new innovation, but our questioner asked what new technologies have shown the most promise to scale commercially in the next few years. Urishni, do you want to answer that? So what has shown most promise to allow scale, commercial scale? I'm afraid you're on mute.
There we go. For us, it's definitely looking at renewable energy. We've looked at electric vehicles, 75-year-old mines with those deep, narrow stopes. We're going to have to put in a lot of infrastructure. The hydrogen, the electric vehicles certainly need to mature a lot more before we start introducing those types of vehicles into our mine. So renewable energy for us is what we're doing for now.
Thank you, Aaron. Same question to you. I'm afraid you're on mute as well. Someone has to happen. It does happen all the time. Aaron.
Yeah. No, I would say that every mining company is taking a very much a risk-based approach. So when you're saying what innovations, I think the prudent approach in our view, is to go for tried and tested technologies, which is sometimes it sounds a bit boring, but then you go for things like solar, you go for things like wind. Wind will not work where we are, by the way, but you'll go for the classical renewable energy sources. And things like hydrogen, either in battery form supporting solar or as a combustible, that is up and coming in Indonesia, but it's not fully there yet. I speak under the control of Reza, who has a better overview of what's happening in the country. But if you plan, and planning is indeed key, and you plan a decarbonization roadmap, the tendency is to put the low-hanging fruits in terms of renewable energies first, and then as you see technologies maturing, put them in the middle and towards the end. So, for example, for us, we would think carbon capture is, for our remote location, is something much further down the line, and not even in the medium term, but in the long term, an option. So it's a question of looking at the different technologies. What is the low-hanging fruits, which can be done easily, cost effectively, which are proven technologies, put them first. It's also a process of getting used to this transition to lower carbon technologies. That is necessary within a company. There's a cultural change within the company, a management difference between the traditional coal-fired and looking at other energy sources. So there's a whole scope of things that need to be done, training of staff, etc. So that is the prudent approach in my view.
Thank you. I know biofuels have their detractors and the pros and cons, but given Indonesia's position as the world's largest palm oil producer, are you looking at potential of using palm oil-based biofuels as a transition, perhaps?
Yes. In fact, we automatically are, because all of Indonesia is already mixing regular diesel with biodiesel. So on site we are using B35, which means that 35% of the fuel is based on palm oil. Now the company that is producing this is certified, so it's not just palm oil which is produced in recently cut down forests or something like that, but it remains controversial also internationally. And as an Eramet group, we haven't counted the savings that are possibly made by this having this 35% biofuel. We haven't counted that so we are conservative. We're putting the full 100% of the diesel greenhouse gases for the moment, but that's an ongoing debate.
Okay, thanks for that. Another question I'd like to cover, next question is from David Baxter, and it's really about engaging broader value chains and education around the opportunity and importance of having green and socially responsible critical minerals. Urashni, what are you doing to engage on the kind of the good news story here?
Sure. So, I mean, for us, it's really around ensuring, number one, we understand what the community needs are. And, in terms of the communities that we work around, it's jobs, it's access to training, which, it's around the question. And then lastly, it says, give us your entrepreneurial opportunities. So that's what our training is really around. It's around making sure that the skills that we offer to our communities will match the job profile that we have internally. Secondly, where there are opportunities, we ensure that we work with the community so that they understand what our tender requirements are, for example. We share with them in terms of a long-term plan, starting off now, understanding business requirements, setting yourself to be able to do business, the basics, understanding the accounting behind business. And once they understand all of that, then we start to support them in terms of short-term contracts until we get some longer-term contracts. And Ian, we've got some amazing stories where we've brought in people, we've brought in women, we shared with them what a good business should look like. We started some of them off at about 2017. Right now, they're probably sitting at around 100, 200 employees. They're supporting on deep mining, in addition to the administrative non-technical work. So I think it's really about making sure that you build trust in your community, continue to understand what they need, demonstrate beneficiation from the training that will come through should they spend the time with the business.
Yeah.
Okay, Reza, do you want to comment on that? What are you seeing at the WRI in terms of this mining sector, particularly critical mineral mining sector, engaging the broader value chain?
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more that also community involvement in Indonesia is also one of the issues in Indonesia. So I think it's not only about the company getting producing a lower and lower carbon footprint, but also the process to transformation itself. The transition process itself has to be just, like said the Dr. Ushan told us about the just energy transition. So I think it's not only lowering the number, but also giving value and also benefits to the community itself during the transition process.
Thank you. Aaron, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I understood David's question, because up and down the value chain, if you're speaking of the different scopes of emissions, scope 1, the direct emissions or the indirect emissions, or the scope 3 emissions, which is further down the value chain, those are things that obviously we are all looking at. Or if the question is oriented more towards to what extent are communities engaged in this energy transition. Under the IRMA standard, in any case, it is a 100% mandatory requirement to consult with the communities on all aspects of the mining operations. And I'll give you one concrete example. In our roadmap, we are likely proposing a slurry pipeline, which would go from the mine down to the processing facilities, and this would go. So the minerals will be pumped down the slurry pipeline with water, but the pipeline it's a relatively large and certainly long affair, and which will traverse the forest, which is also being used by communities. So if you have such an idea of putting up such an infrastructure in the forest, which is also used by communities, there is a requirement to consult in advance with the communities involved to properly explain what the impacts can be and what mitigation measures you would be proposing, and hopefully get the buy-in of those communities. So that would be one concrete example that I can give.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I think you did answer the question. Thank you very much. Okay, next question. Looking at drivers behind current decarbonisation efforts, are there some specific policies, existing or potential, that can change trajectory? Great question.
Yeah.
Rishni, drivers behind your current decarbonisation efforts?
Yeah, I mean, our drivers is really, number one is our business. It's a business strategy that we will be responsible corporate stewards. Secondly, we have a sustainability framework that extends across the business and is embedded into every single one of our responsibilities. We apply a 3A approach. So we come up with a combined ambition, and all of us rally around those. In terms of ensuring that we have the technology, as I said, we have a team of people, a technology stream that will review technology, understand what is it that is ready for implementation so that we can reach our goal. And then where there are future, again, that team will continue to apply their mind. It's the community elements to make sure that we continue to provide the community with the benefits so that it is just. The elements in terms of understanding the infrastructure for the transition is also key. The regulatory requirements, making sure, as Aaron has indicated, that we take the stakeholders along with us so that they understand what is the value add of this specific project that we are taking through. So I think those are some of the key drivers that we need to make sure that we address and that we manage. And it's always an integrated process. It's through partnership and it's through having a combined view of where you want to go to in the future that supports the transition.
Thank you. Aaron, do you want to comment on do you have any specific things that could change the trajectory or could be game-changing in terms of technology or different approach?
Well, first of all, I put my thumb up because the way Urshani was explaining the policy of her company, that's very much also what the direction we're going. So that means we're not too far off as Eramet. But there's one other important driver for decarbonization, and that is the marketplace. So the European market with its carbon border adjustment mechanism, the battery passport, those are important drivers, signals to companies like ours to really consider. You see changes also happening in Asia, sometimes following what is happening in Europe. So that would be a very important driver. But as we said earlier on in this conversation, today there's not yet a premium for this, or not a clear premium. There are exceptions, of course. There is Swedish Steel, which is selling steel at a premium to Volvo, who is using it in their, because they want green steel, so they're paying more for it. But those are really still very limited examples in the world. The general market, and especially the steel market at this moment, the bigger steel market does not yet have that incentive to players like us to actually decarbonize. But we plan ahead, we look ahead, we see the trends, and that is why also within the DNA of Eramet there is this commitment to decarbonize, and we have a clear net zero target, as I said earlier, in 2050.
Great, thanks very much. Let's talk a bit about community engagement. I've got a question here asking about how you do engage with communities, and if you have a specific corporate department dedicated to community impact. Urishni, do you want to answer that one? Do you have a department that does that?
Sure, sure. So, I mean, we definitely do have a department that looks into community engagement, that ensures that we are proactively managing the expectations for the community. We work closely as part of that community engagement with the tribal authorities. We work with the government departments at various levels. So, yes, the answer is yes, that we do have a specific department. In addition to that, what we also say is that based on where the mines are. I mean, we've heard from Arend how remote those mines are. The community is really the family of our employees. So, in terms of the mining industry, we take community as an extension of our workplace and our people. So, what we always say is that in terms of sustainability, importantly, in terms of safety, everything that we do at work from a principle perspective must be embedded, inherent in our way of thinking, in our way of acting, so that we take that into our homes and into our community. And in so doing, we will have transformational behavior towards great citizenship, safe citizens.
Yeah. Thanks. Aaron, anything to add there briefly, if you would?
Yes, I think it's similar. We also have specific community engagement departments, different names, with staffed by people who are experienced and qualified to do that, because it is an art. I think it is, as I said earlier, under the IRMA standards, the stakeholder engagement aspect is basically in every aspect of the mining operations. So it is a critical part. It doesn't always go well. There are difficulties. In the case of Indonesia, it's a remote area. You bring in, you employ people around from the villages, but you bring in a lot of people. So where before there were a few thousand people in small villages, there's now over 90,000 people. So you can imagine that this population influx has a lot of impact. Some of them positive, like local people are earning a lot of money renting out rooms and apartments to the staff of the industrial park where our operations are located. But you can imagine that it can also bring negative impact. So those are also things that need to be managed. So a stakeholder engagement plan is critical. To have a structured dialogue with the communities, to involve them in different aspects. I'll give you an example involving communities in joint monitoring of water quality of the rivers, whereby the community representatives sample some of the water, we sample some of the water, we bring our samples to our laboratory, they bring it to an independent laboratory, and then it's compared. So that kind of arrangement builds trust. There can still be issues. So within the stakeholder engagement plan, you must have a grievance mechanism where people can lodge complaints, which is a transparent system, clear for everybody in a language which is appropriate and culturally appropriate to be used, with clear timelines and processes of resolution, conflict resolution if there are conflicts. And redress mechanisms if they are not happy with the outcomes. So these are all mechanisms that are pretty standard in the mining industry, and which are required under quite a few international standards.
Great, thank you. Now we're coming to the end of the end of our time. So I just want to ask our panelists in turn just to give a very quickly, in a couple of sentences, just what the thing they're taking away from the conversation today. Reza, why don't you go first? What are you taking away from the conversation today?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is hearing from companies, Eramet and also Harmony Gold is they have taken steps further on the decarbonization. I think it's paving the right path for the industry, the critical minerals industry, and I think this is one of the best practices that could be scaled up to and expand throughout the industry. So I think this is very important.
Okay, thank you. Aaron, 10 seconds, please, just very quickly.
Seconds. Okay. The devil is in the detail.
Here we are. That's excellent. I think
No,
we actually,
That is
wait, I lost you, Aaron.
the issue.
Okay, thank you. And then Urishni.
10 seconds. The future is exciting. It is possible to have low carbon mining.
Am I muted again?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to draw the discussion to a close as we're running out of time, but many thanks to our panel for their time and their insights today, and to all of you for your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but thank you very much indeed. The conversations today will be part of the wider discussion at the Critical Minerals Innovation Forum that we're holding in London on the 5th and 6th of November. Full details are on the Innovation Forum website, and there's a link in the chat, or you can use the QR code that's on your screen right now. For now, I hope you have found this webinar useful. I've been Dean Welsh, and thank you for joining us, and goodbye.